Silence of the Lambs is the first film ever to win Best Picture regarded as a horror movie. And it's the first one to ever be a horror movie, but also got Best Actor and Actress.
Well, not only that, it's got the Big Five, which only 3 films in the history of the Oscars have gotten, which is, of course, Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director, and Best Screenplay. Was It Happened One Night, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's an anomaly among the Oscar films, and it's the only horror film, like real horror film.
If you go back and rewatch the Oscars of 1992, you can see everybody's like, what? Because everybody thought like Prince of Tides was a perfect like Oscar bait to win all this.
Oh yeah. Well, not even that. Just even getting nominated was kind of like, what, a horror movie got nominated, and it doesn't matter how much you liked it or didn't like it. It's out of place. It's kind of like when Get Out got a nomination a few years ago. We all wanted it to. Yeah. But I don't think any of us expected it to, especially because that film came out in February, and the Oscars were all the way the next January. So. It's unique, yeah.
Unique is... this is a unique story. So, I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast.
I'm Kyle Goethe from GoFilmReviews.com. Let's stay silent.
This is one of the things I think there's a lot of contrast, a lot of different plays, because like you talk about Silence of the Lambs, but you have a picture of a moth. You have talking about a serial killer, male serial killer, but you have a picture of a girl. So there's a lot of cut and pieces throughout this film, as well as you have a serial killer cut in pieces that you don't really discombobulated the whole time. Yeah,
this is a movie that shouldn't work, and I don't mean that because I didn't like. I enjoy Hannibal Lecter. I'm a big fan of the Hannibal TV show. I think it's great that you can have multiple actors portraying this character that's so iconic, and each one brings something different to it. I'm a big fan of the character, and even just the Anthony Hopkins series of films with this character too. But it shouldn't work because you do have so many different oppositions to it as well. Like Silence of the Lambs, let's be realistic, is a terrible title. Like, it is not a good title. I mean, it fits for the movie, but who is thinking to themselves, I gotta go check out that Silence of the Lambs movie? Like, it's not a good title. The poster is unique, but really, it's one of those ones that you appreciate more after having seen the film. Yeah. You appreciate more having learned things about the moth and, like, its significance. It's in the moth, right. Yeah. It just doesn't feel like a movie that should work in any way, shape, or form, and yet it is extremely watchable and rewatchable. This movie is 2 hours long, and it flies by, and I've never been bored watching it.
No, so... Thomas Harris wrote the book. I didn't really actually read the book. I've seen this movie many times, but basically the overall arc of the theme of the movie is basically one woman struggles and obstacles to overcome a very male, patriarchal, dominant society and just have a job, right? Yeah. And not even that, being recognized that she's good at being at this job.
Well, and I don't know that the book does so much to push that narrative forward. Yeah. And the film is very, very nice in that it's not something you really get unless someone tells you, and then you appreciate it, and you see it more. That was something that I think my mother originally kind of guided me towards, because we'd rented, side story, I guess, my dad does not like watching horror movies. Growing up, he would not really be interested in renting the horror movies that came out, so we would always watch them when he would go to work. Sometimes he'd work on the weekend once a month, and my mother and I were such horror junkies, we'd rent those horror movies that one weekend every month, and that was how we watched Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal in a double feature, I guess you can. And she was kind of the one who was like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to watch this. And when she tells you that too, then you're like, oh man, I got to see this. So her telling me that, kind of about Clarice's journey was really, really paramount to me understanding the film more and appreciating it more and more as we've watched it. You reminded me of that.
So yeah, even in fact, in the beginning when she's running the FBI training obstacle course, she's actually by herself. And then you see a group of men going the opposite direction, almost smirking like, you really, no matter how I try, you're not going to do this. As well as she's actually bait for Crawford. Crawford's actually setting, Beauty to the Beast, right? This classic cliche of Beauty to the Beast to get him to start talking, whether or not. But she's being used as bait. She's being used by Hannibal to get out. So and then not only that, she knows it. Yeah.
Well, and Crawford knows what he's doing very much so, as you pointed out, because, though the film Red Dragon came out years later, the book Red Dragon was written before. And Crawford was a character in that, and he basically knows who to send to Hannibal in order. He knows he can't access it. So in Red Dragon, of course, he sends Will Graham, a guy who worked with Hannibal Lecter on cases before he was, arrested for it. And now too, he kind of sends a different angle to it. He sends someone who's, I think, almost maybe somebody that he sees as potentially weak. Like this is a test for her to go through. And if she fails, then he knows that she wasn't meant to do this job. If she succeeds, then, you know, it's kind of a level of, like, this is, I want you to succeed. There's a chance you'll fail.
And so you get it very heavily, and I talk about her struggles, and I mean, even their introduction to Dr. Chilton, the first thing he wants to do is take her out to dinner, right?
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't care about what she's here to do. And then he starts mansplaining everything, like, you know, be careful this, careful that, and everything. But you understand all the struggles she has to go through. Not only that, the training exercise of her going through, and she's with somebody, but the boss is ratting her out instead of him.
Well, and there's that level, you pointed it out really well. When you first meet Chilton, that's the first thing he does. My wife was watching the movie with me because this is one of her favorite movies of all time. Yeah. And we both remarked that is like one of the slimiest lines in cinema history. It's not even that slimy of a line, but the way that Chilton reads it, where he's like, I've never met one more attractive than you. Like, it's just so like, oh, gross, dude. And then I like that when she turns him down, and it's not even that harsh of a turn down either. It's more just like, I gotta get out of town. Yeah. He takes it as offense.
Yeah,
and it hurts. And so he takes out the rest of her conversation on her, and every other thing that she interacts with Lecter, he has a sense of like, I don't want her to succeed anymore. This is a guy who's like an awful doctor in so many ways, because he kind of wants to see suffering. He doesn't want to help. He wants to hinder. Yeah. So Chilton, for being a small character, and that's again one of the great things about this movie, even the smallest characters have some sort of, you know, interactive lens to walk through the film.
We talk about like it's a great story, but this is actually shot very well, because, you know, when Clarice she's going down the depths of hell to meet Hannibal, so you have a lot of red, you have this very sounding music, you almost get a panic attack as well before she gets down there.
Yes.
And they filmed it not so much traditional like a jail cell, but they film it almost like it's like a cave, almost.
Like a tomb at times. You know, you don't even see, I don't think you see the end of the hall when she's going down the hall. The lights are dim. Like, no wonder these guys have probably gotten crazier in those cells, because they've like been forgotten, you know? Like, it's and that's one of the things too, is the entirety of that first interaction with her is the worst kind of male gaze, because it's all of these worst of society staring at her, seeing her through their eyes, and the way out, I won't tell you how that goes, I don't really want to talk about that, but the way out is just is even worse, because they've all seen now that she has kind of taken an interest in Hannibal. They want to be in that realm. So it's a really disturbing sequence of events for her to see him. And what I really like is that if you have not seen Hannibal Lecter before, which is, you know, anybody who hasn't seen Manhunter, I guess, would have not seen Hannibal Lecter before. You hear all these stories as you go downstairs, and then you see this, you know, pretty well talkative guy, pretty calm, and like, even though he's judging her, the first time you see him, he could practically be in a suit and tie. That's how eloquent he is.
He's very alert. He's in the middle of the room. He has a power stature, but he's ready, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't like a surprise. He was ready, and he knew she was coming and all this stuff. Yeah. So, yeah. And then Jonathan Demme, the director, understood that you want to see Hannibal Lecter's face. So the invention of a plexiglass, rather just bars, so you don't cover up his face. It was a kind of creative moment to you want to have something that you can see in entire encompassing events that he does, and as well as his drawings. So I want to mention up the drawings, because here you have written that he has talent through the dialogue. So he has keen smells, he knows how to do profiles, as well as committed good memories.
Yeah, I mean, knowing that he's seen these things in real life and he's putting them to memory to the point of drawing them is a very I would say on the nose, but it's not a main plot point, so it doesn't really hit you on the head.
But you understand that, okay, you have to be careful of this person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and she knows going into this situation too, and that's what he sees in her. Is he sees they sent a recruit. What I like about it though is that he respects her femaleness more than anybody else in the room. He doesn't see her as a woman or as just a woman, which is what so many other people in the film are seeing. He sees her as a recruit, if anything. If that's the most demeaning thing you can think about, you know, is that they sent me this, not her or him, just this person. And I think it's disturbing to see that, again, like one of the more eloquent people is introduced by having these horrible things saying to him, and he's done horrible things, and then when you see him, it's kind of a different version of events. On the opposite of that, you have Buffalo Bill, who is introduced in a kind of a nice way, actually, where, I mean, like, this first scene, you don't really suspect him to be the bad guy full on. He shows up and he's just asking for help. He's doing something that Ted Bundy was known for doing.
Yeah.
And he's introduced in a nice way, and there's a monster behind.
So we talk about that. I really have this theory that all horror films is the center basis is feminism, whether you want to explore if feminism be heroic or the questionality of why is feminism evil, the perception. This is an ideal class of feminism being the central core of the theme for the movie, because even Buffalo Bill has a distorted and very horrific point of view of what feminine is. And he's going to try to not only damage everybody else, transforming from his male spec to female.
Well, and a theme for a lot of the villains.
He's a warped mind of what it is.
Harris is known for that, though. Harris, I mean, even with Red Dragon previously, was about transformation. His villains did not like who they were. They wanted to evolve or become something that they sought out. In the case of the Red Dragon, he wanted to become a monster, a god among men. In the case of Silence of the Lambs, he wants to become the complete opposite of who he was. And a lot of people have seen this kind of as, like a kind of a tone-deaf take on the transgender community.
Yeah.
Demi didn't see it that way. Demi was like, I saw him as a person who hated who he was so much that he wants to become the exact opposite.
Yeah, but they mentioned in the movie how you probably missed profiles of going through the things, and the people that want to be themselves, but he doesn't want to. He wants to use this as an excuse to continue murder. He has a project.
They all think it's something that's going to fix them. That's another thing too, is they all think that by doing this, they will be able to become a normal functioning member of society, which is a very misguided thing to do. Is if I just kill a bunch of people, I'll be normal.
Like Ted Bundy said, if my ex-girlfriend did break up with me, I want to kill all those people. Well,
yeah, assign the blame there too.
Right, yeah. So there's a lot of serial killers also assign blame to other things rather than take responsibility. And Buffalo Bill is definitely a key person to that. Hannibal Lecter's kind of a key person to that too.
Yeah, Hannibal Lecter doesn't see what he did as being wrong.
No.
And I think that's, again, like a jarring thing for a man who was in charge of the psyches of so many patients. There's a common theory that actually that he wanted Buffalo Bill to go like crazy.
Yeah.
Like that he wanted to kind of send him down the line. And, there was that theory that he kind of guided him towards this insanity. So if he ever were to end up behind bars, he could use that as a bargaining chip. I don't know if I buy that theory, but it's an interesting one nonetheless, knowing he can play people so well.
Let's bring it up. His cinematographer's name is
Fujimoto.
And we talk about that it's not a clean-looking film. He's very notorious for not doing clean film. This is kind of a mucky atmosphere. I don't think there's a bright, shiny day in it. I think even at the end when they're going on vacation, it's not even a bright, sunny day. I think there's got an overcast. So
it's dreary.
It's very dreary
movie. Yeah. And that's kind of how the Sixth Sense was from Tak Fujimoto as well. Another film where he's kind of forced into a little bit more of a clean is the 2010 film Devil, where M. Night Shyamalan producing, where he had to actually shoot the entire film basically inside of an elevator, the cleanest of possible rooms. But then he's basically forced into that and has to use it to kind of make it dirty. And Devil's a very underrated film if you guys want to check it out. But never really bright and sunny. Even most of the scenes outside are downcast and dreary, and that gives the film a depressing visual sense, which works pretty well to its favor.
So a lot of the murkiness and a lot of the really subtraction of clean, and we talk about other movies that are not afraid to get their hands dirty, but this is actually a Oscar-winning film that you hardly ever see a movie getting its hands dirty. Well, I think maybe Platoon, and that's the other big surprise of this, because it's probably one of the most unnerving movies of all the candidates that was at the time.
Yeah, this is a movie that I would be less surprised at winning Best Picture today than when it came out 30 years ago. Because, as you said, the Academy has changed a lot since then, and we're willing to embrace a bit more of the oddity. Especially, a couple of years ago, The Shape of Water won, which if you ever gets a romantic movie between a fish man and a whale, you could win. That's proof that we can get a little weird in the Academy Awards and still win. Parasite was a weird movie. We're trending towards this movie successful, today. It was not deemed as such back in 30 years ago because, again, people liked the movie. They were like, how did this win, though? Which is very unique.
So, I like Anthony Hopkins with his performance. One of the things that you notice that he does not blink very much, or does not blink at all. So it's almost like a irritant concentration, almost subhuman. But they also have the very famous. I like how they film it. The one time they actually touch when she hands him the pictures.
Yes,
that needs to be in that movie as a gesture of I'm not threatening to you.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and the fact that knowing that he's not afraid, of course, to get close because he's a predator hunting his prey even behind the glass. But she's also trying to prove that she's not willing or not afraid to get close either.
But even
again,
when you
she's
watch
told not to. She's told not to so
yeah.
many times not to do it. And that, I think, is a primary example of Jodie Foster's character working to her benefit in that she is given a tremendous amount of work that she has to accomplish in the film. We have a female protagonist, not really something you'd expect in the time period in a manhunt movie, but then also not giving her every power in the book. You know, she's not super powerful. She makes a lot of mistakes in this movie, as would any recruit. But it's unique that she makes them and learns from them. You know, when she makes the mistake of getting too close, she gets close enough to making that mistake again as the film reaches its end.
Yeah. So I appreciate the ending. Now, a lot of people at the time criticized the ending as unnecessary long of the night vision goggles, which is a new technology at the time. It was a brand new thing that they actually put in the movie of night technology that was used during the 1992 Iraq War, 91 Iraq War. But here, I like it that the character thinks he can play. With playful play, even though he had the opportunity to kill her. He still likes the play game. Yeah,
it's a cats and mouse movie. She's the one mouse, and she's just surrounded by cats. Every person in this film is not only hunting her, but also having fun with it too.
Yeah.
And it's kind of really like a messed up psychological view of how this film plays out. But you're right. Yeah, it was a new technology, especially in the fact that there's actually a goof in the film where there's the shadow of a gun appears in the night vision, because they're shooting day for night kind of stuff. Yeah. They hadn't done it before, so of course that mistake is pretty understandable. But it's a great scene. I actually like the ending so much because I think it's a very confusing setup for an ending, with the twists and turns of where everyone's heading in the different houses and stuff like that. It's a very well done, though, take on that confusing kind of an ending, especially so much that, you know, a fan of Saw like me, one of the Saw movies uses this ending too. So it's kind of surprising that it's kind of permeated for decades.
It has that, we talked about it in the beginning of the clip of her doing her FBI training, and she screws up in her training, not checking behind the door, which is a great foreshadowing of the ending of the movie,
checking every door.
Yeah, she makes actually checking every door.
And they make it very clear, and I don't fault the film for this, but she makes it very clear because I believe throughout the film, Jodie Foster does a great job of staying very emotionless through most of the film. And it's only a few times where she breaks, and I love that when she finally does have this breaking point in the ending where she fears for her life, you see her fearing for her life so much in those elements, because like she's completely in a new area now than she was at the beginning.
So Jonathan Demme knew he was doing some horrific content for a script. So as a director, he always tried to keep it almost like we're filming a comedy, and try to do in between have jokes and have fun and have laughs and have cakes. And I know it was going to be a taxing thing, and a lot of people have unsettling aspects of making this movie. So he tried to keep it lighted, almost like we're doing ridiculous, almost slapstick. And that's, I think, is a good psychological point of how you make this movie and kind of wash it away when you're done with it. So he always made a comedy. This is also one of the first films that at the end, they all went to one vacation location. It's at the end of the movie. I don't think it's like in Haiti. Do you remember?
I don't
remember
where they filmed that part, but yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those that they all say, well, let's go on vacation. So we just shoot that one scene for one day, right? Or a couple takes from one day, and then they spend the rest of the week having fun.
Oh, yeah. No, the comedy band, The Lonely Island, made a song about that where it was like, we're going to do this random shot in Japan so that we can go there. It's something, I don't fault them for it at all. I would have done it too. Demme played it pretty close to the heart, though, where he was allowing himself to have fun off screen. And I think that creates a sense of camaraderie to the film.
Yeah. Where
the people that work together begrudgingly work together. There's a chemistry, even though they don't always really get along or like each other that much. That's a good point, though. And I think having that chemistry between Hopkins and Foster, it's a very unique and very weird kind of chemistry to show on film.
And it does play out because Anthony Hopkins was notorious not to have any interaction with Jodie. And in fact, Jodie's admitted that they still haven't really talked.
Oh, yeah.
Ever. Only what you saw on film is there are only really interactions they had. So, and then Anthony Hopkins was notorious of leaving him in the cell in between takes and then really getting out. So,
well, they only have 4 scenes together in the whole movie.
Yeah,
which is pretty crazy. In fact, another interesting note is that Anthony Hopkins has the second shortest amount of screen time for a Best Leading Actor win of all time. He appears in less than a quarter of the movie.
I think it was like 12 minutes total.
I think it's in the 20s. I think.
Okay.
It's definitely a lot less for a leading man than you expect. I actually would consider him a supporting player, but it's Oscar politics. So.
Well, yeah, it was very. I think it was. Yeah, at the time it was really the played out in the news and everything. How it should have been a supporting role, but the lobbying and all that stuff.
Oscar politics wins.
Oscar politics wins. Right. They're still in it. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Overall, I think this movie works well, even though we said it should not work at all.
Yeah, for me, it's a rare film in that I appreciate it more and more the more I watch it. When I was younger and I first watched this, as I said, renting it on the weekend with my mother, I actually found myself enjoying Hannibal more. And then as I've rewatched it, I've come to appreciate more and more Silence of the Lambs and what its goals are, but then also how it manages to tackle a lot of subjects without really bogging you down, hitting you over the head with them, and be entertaining. Again, you could watch this movie and not read anything into anything, and just watch it for its pure entertainment
of
value.
Just trying to stop a serial killer, right?
Great manhunt kind of a movie. And any film that came afterwards borrowed from this movie. There's not a film currently out right now about this kind of a subject that doesn't take something from this movie.
Have you seen Silence of the Lambs?
I've seen clips. I have not. So I was talking with someone on Twitter about this a while ago.
Yeah.
When they made the Blair Witch Project, there was the Bogus Witch Project, and I watched that and I said, I'm not watching a spoof of one of these kind of movies anymore, and it kind of killed my spoofiness for a little while.
So, don't remain silent. Speak up. What do you think about Silence of the Lambs?
Oh yeah, let us know in the comment section down below. We got plenty of space for you to tell us. Were you a book reader of Silence of the Lambs? Do you think Hopkins is better, or do you actually prefer Mads Mikkelsen's work on the Hannibal TV show? I'm sure there's lots of takes on this because Hannibal Lecter's become kind of like the Joker in that a lot of people have taken the role and it's been unique in almost every fashion. The less said about Hannibal Rising, the better. But we want to know your thoughts on it as well, so let us know down below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for all of our content every single time it drops. You don't have to go looking for it. It'll find you. Another way for you to get involved is check out the Patreon. Patreon.com/KyleNickOnFilm. The link is down in the description. And you can look at how you can help pick themes with the show. You can help pick some of the different movies we're going to talk about. We always like hearing feedback from you guys, so it's really great to have that around.
All right, so join the team, pick out movies. There's still a lot to choose from.
Yep, definite recommendation on Silence of the Lambs. Yeah. Once again, you can find all my film reviews on GoFilmReviews.com.
You can find the St. Paul Filmcast anywhere you find podcasts.
All right, let's go out silent.